It's definitely getting hotter now. It's gonna be one of those times where during these times they'll say, where's the rain? It's too hot. Then other times, oh, it rains all the time. Where's the sunlight? You can't ever win. And what's going on today? I decided to further test that NAV Canada program in terms of getting the drone flight approvals and stuff like that. Yesterday, I tested the app and it seemed like it was kind of confusing whether or not it got approved or not. And today I decided, well, let me try this thing entirely based on the web application. First, you basically set a radius, kind of like what you did with the app, and you determine, okay, where am I flying and how am I flying? So the one good thing about this versus the old way, just a plain form, as I mentioned, normally you have to come up with all the coordinates and all that. Whereas this, since it's all through a map, you can basically just put a radius there and it'll determine, okay, that's where you want to fly. Then afterwards, I went to publish it, which is kind of like what I did yesterday. I guess that's your plan to say, okay, I'm ready to go, so to speak. Like this will be the plan for the day or whatever. It says here, something went wrong. And it says you cannot publish this operation. Some parameters do not comply with the required input. So what was the issue? Apparently you have to give your operation a title or something like that, according to this anyway. So you can call it anything, like photo, fly, launch, or whatever. You just have to name it something according to this. Afterwards, I published it, and from what I gather, it seemed like it was approved and all. Your next option, it says takeoff. That's where I learned some interesting stuff here, and from what I gather, it seems like they're trying to divide it even more in terms of, I guess, certain controlled airspaces, which one they will be more, I guess, lenient on in terms of an automated process. So I thought it'd be kind of interesting to show, because yesterday, if you guys remember, the reason why I chose that specific spot in that specific area, because it was so close to a Class G airspace as well. So I just wanted to see, because from past experience, I filled everything out from the traditional form. They approved it almost instantaneously because it's so safe, I guess you could say, to fly over there, just go up and down, capture whatever videos and come back down. So I thought this was a great example to show how this, I guess, robot will determine, okay, what is, quote, safe to just auto-approve and what isn't. So this is in controlled airspace still technically, but again, it seems like they divided it to even more different sections. Like here, if you put in this point here, it says 121.92 meters is the upper limit. So technically, with this, if your operation was under this amount within this particular area of controlled airspace, then they will say, okay, auto approve. Now you can see if you go into the orange zone, like the darker orange one, it says here upper limit is 30.48. So that's their standard, I guess, okay, good to go, it's safe, don't need my extra permission or anything like that if you were to fly in that area. If you then go into the actual orange zone, which is technically the circle around the Vancouver harbor, there, it doesn't matter what height you have, you'll still need to get approval and stuff and coordinate with them, according to this anyways, like it wouldn't be auto-approved. I would assume there that would send like the email as well, and then you would have to wait for their response. And then if you click outside into the really dark gray area, that should be technically the Class G airspace. And you can see there's nothing there. There's technically no, quote, restrictions other than what you should abide by federally, like in terms of the height limit and all that. So thinking about the web versus the app, it made me think yesterday, if you guys remember, once I submitted everything, published everything, it says it was resolved. So does that mean it was okay? Because if you guys remember, there was even that warning message saying, hey, there's another drone in the air, right? When I published mine to show in some ways, okay, maybe it was approved, but according to the video and stuff, it says you should have gotten an email to get manual approval in that way, since I'm technically flying over 30 meters there. But then if you look at the web version, actually, you can see the submission, like the old one, is still in a limbo. It says here, permission requests, and under resolved, it's not there. I would assume it'd be moved over. It was actually fixed. So for whatever reason, this isn't, I guess, working as intended. Maybe there's no one in NAV Canada checking it. And the other thing I was thinking about, just by looking at what I guess they determined was a safe limit to auto approve, like how do you come up with 30 meters like there? What is the logic? Because within that area, actually, there is an amusement park, and there's a ride, for example, that's what, like 100 feet? I don't think there should be any airplanes flying like what, within 100 feet of there. It makes me think too about that thought where, like I said, unfortunately this doesn't really solve over the top regulations or anything like that, because there's no clear distinction between someone flying, let's just say recreationally. It makes you wonder, like here, if you say 30 meters is the, quote, I guess, safe height, if someone's flying in their backyard, let's say a kid with a toy and all that, what's the point of making them go through this whole process and all that? Spending hundreds of dollars or whatever just to fly a toy drone at that height? shouldn't that just be okay, good to go? Because you say like that's auto approval, right? Does that make sense in that way? Because if you want to argue, well, that toy can literally fly and hit an airplane or something like that, theoretically that should be able to happen anywhere, even like in a Class G airspace, correct? Even for the licensed operators, I would say, doesn't it make more sense just to say, okay, this is the blanket federal law in terms of the heights and stuff that you can actually fly. So in general, overall, just abide by that. And if you want to actually go even higher, that's more like what, SFOC zone? Shouldn't that be more the thing where, okay, I need to get approval for that? I mean, people keep, again, using things like car driver license, all that, even though it's kind of completely different and doesn't even run like the same way if you think about it. It doesn't make sense. Imagine if you're driving a car with a license, every time you go out or whatever to the highway and stuff like that, okay, I need to get permission today to drive through this highway. Why? You already have a license and there's basic rules in terms of like what, speed limits and all that. This definitely doesn't give you the same freedom as you would get with things like a micro drone here currently, so that's still the way to go for, I guess, a lot of people. But it makes me wonder, with this app and stuff coming out, am I gonna magically see people start fear-mongering, like just say a micro drone now? Because people could actually say, well, now that this is here, just add in like a micro drone there and make it so that every time people fly a micro drone, regardless of what it is, you'll have to use this, I guess, process to get it approved. Because I remember actually last time when they were debating about the laws and stuff like that, funny enough, the first day they proposed like the new laws and all that, all of a sudden there were these reports like from pilots and stuff saying, oh, there was like a near miss or whatever. There was that one where there was no actual tangible proof, but they just ran with it. So it makes me wonder if that's going to be the case now. I mean, does history repeat itself? Am I going to read a lot of stories of, quote, near misses, pilots saying there's drones and stuff everywhere, just so they can say everything has to, I guess, go through this now? Can you imagine this in the future too? Let's just say a quote drone is just your smartphone that flies to give you like a selfie or something like that. Imagine registering hundreds of thousands of this every single day like that and having these warning messages, warning, drone operation in the area. I just think in general, again, the idea of a drone is just too much of things like quadcopter, DJI stuff. There wasn't much, I guess, overall consideration of what they quote categorize as a drone overall and how people use it. Alright, see you guys later.